All right. Rich Casanova here in the Atlanta podcast studio. We have a special guest here joining us in our Atlanta studio, none other than Mr. Dewayne Hart. And he just released his newest book called The Cybersecurity Mindset. And we're going to talk about all things authorship, podcasting, what's coming up next. So Dwayne, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me here, Rich. We did season 1 last year of my podcast.
Yeah.
And I was able to finish a much needed publication, and it was launched out to the industry, and I get a lot of great feedback about it. But, before I even started to do podcasts and writing.
Yeah, you had a life before that, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your Mr. Dewayne Hart and your backstory.
I was in the United States Navy for 20 years. Okay.
Oh, thank you for your service.
And part of what I did in the military was information technology and training, weapons, defense. And when you look at all three of those are areas that correlate over to cyber security itself.
Right.
Because as a veteran, I was facing and learning a lot about cybersecurity, before it even became such a hot topic.
Right.
Okay. So I was in the military, and then after I retired out the military, I decided to work for some contracting companies, and I was working on some cybersecurity programs for like different agencies. And then, a couple of years after that, I said, hey, let me launch my own company. And then after launching the company, which is focusing on cybersecurity consulting services, I said that I think that I can write a book.
Yeah, there's enough subject matter here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I was at home watching my favorite team, which was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay.
All right. Shout out to those guys.
Shout out to the Steelers.
Right.
And it was halftime, and I was just sitting back thinking of all the great things I like to do, which is go to Pittsburgh every year and to watch a football game.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let me put another check in the box on something in my life. So I said, okay, I think I can write a book. And then I did the research.
Right.
But at first, I did not know what I wanted to write about. I just kept putting a list down of different things I wanted to write. And then I just stated, okay, what is inside of my brain cell? What can I really write about that carries value?
Right.
And I realized that I had a passion for cybersecurity. So I said, okay, it's going to be on cybersecurity. Then I nailed it down to the cybersecurity mindset, and I started to research different topics. But then after writing the book, I said, you know what? I like to talk a lot, right? And a family member of mine who I declared to give a name said, yeah, you've been talking all your life. So I decided to get into podcasting.
Okay.
Right. And, that's the short history of how I came to be of a person that wanted to write a book, wanted to have a podcast. Outside of book writing and podcasting itself, I just love to educate others on various subjects for cybersecurity, because I have friends that call me and I spend beyond a 5-minute phone call talking about cybersecurity in itself.
So we're going to do a little deeper dive into segments of the book and the big picture. But before we get to that, just an overall quick, what's your best elevator pitch about the book? From a big picture overview. We're going to do a little deeper dive, but just the concept behind the book.
Okay, then. The concept behind the book is to build a roadmap so that readers can understand how to think and also engage cybersecurity, but also to give readers an illustration of how the various layers of cybersecurity are connected together. Now, when I speak of thinking and engaging cybersecurity, it's about why do you need to be proactive instead of reactive?
Yeah.
Because we know that there's been a lot of incidents that have happened over the past couple of years, and millions of people say, okay, we could have prevented that, all right? But this goes beyond the technology people, but also common people that operate cybersecurity in itself. You can also think of the book as a resource guide, right? It's your cybersecurity resource guide because there are 20 chapters in the book that are progressive, as it start off talking about the foundation of cybersecurity, which is building that inclusive culture, moving on to having that risk-based attitude, and then progressively moving into transformational thinking. And transformational thinking states, hey, the old way that we did business may not work.
Right.
Because cybersecurity is constantly evolving. And as it evolves, our thinking process has to evolve too, because the different type of standards and practices that we have in place. Part of that transformational area is to go realize that certain areas of our workforce has to modernize as well too, because technology changing, because we have artificial intelligence,
right.
And we're moving on to cloud services, zero trust, and different type of risk management programs. So users have to have a different level of awareness, and also organization have to change as well too.
Let me ask you this. So many of our listeners are authors or speakers and so forth. So this is your first book, which has got to be pretty exciting, right?
Oh, yes.
What a journey that must have been. And so I'm not going to ask about what's your upcoming book, because I remember, speaking of football, an interview with Bill Walsh from the 49ers, and he had just won the Super Bowl. And he's driving home, and he's stopped at a gas station. And the attendants, like back in the day when they had attendants at the gas station, said to him, like, "Congratulations. So what are you going to do next year?" He's like, "Really? Can I just enjoy the moment? I just left the stadium, right?" So let's just focus on the excitement of your first book. And speaking of that, so we're going to talk about a chapter in a minute. But you mentioned at the top of the show about your podcast, which we were excited to be a part of that. And so season 1, so you can check that out from your website, right? Let's go ahead and give your website before you forget, right? So where would people find more information on the book and yourself?
Very, very simple to find me. If you type in DewayneHart.com,
right?
Okay, you will find me, because that is the website URL to my book, to my podcast, to my trailer videos. And I wanted to make it simple for the community to find out about the cybersecurity mindset. So if you go to www.DewayneHart.com, this is where you can order the cybersecurity mindset, and you can also have links to the podcast that I am recording.
And that's Hart, H-A-R-T, right?
Yes.
All right. So you mentioned the podcast. So season 1. So talk to us about that experience, and also how many episodes, and again, kind of big picture, what was kind of outlined in season 1? What was some of the takeaways or observations or content within season 1?
Well, season 1 was built to do what I call a break-in. I wanted to introduce the listeners to cybersecurity and to dispel some of the information they probably heard, and also too just to present foundational information so that readers can understand your own individual protection standards, looking at the workforces, looking at the industry, and also looking at businesses wise, and also giving readers a first-hand view on some of the familiar topics that they heard. One of the podcasts that I recorded, it was episode 4, which is stated, "Everyone is trying to protect themselves. Why are you not doing the same?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That one right there, I think really raised a lot of information, because this is where individual protection standards come in place for malware, all of your computers, social media. And also too, over in season 1, I actually talked about privacy in itself, information privacy, because millions of people hear these terms about information privacy, but the only thing people really understand is that I'm supposed to keep my password safe.
Right.
Okay. But behind that, there's some other work that goes on just to keep your password safe. So again, season 1 was the foundation.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And then as we transform to season 2,
And we're going to hold that because we're going to give you a teaser at the end about season 2 and whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right.
we got to keep our listeners on the edge of their seats. So you touched on a couple of topics that I'm sure whether you're in business or not, let's talk about from even my personal experience and how this may relate to other people is what have you covered in the book or what readers might expect to talk about? Two topics that come to mind is one, like credit card fraud. So at some point, we probably have experienced that. Matter of fact, I was at the bank just the other day, and they said that if you use a debit card, try not to put in your PIN because that's on you, right? If there's a transaction, generally the banks won't credit you because you authorize with your own PIN, right? But if you use that as a credit card transaction, then you're in a little bit better shape. But what comes to mind about from a personal perspective about credit card fraud, and then from a business perspective and or personal, everybody's on their laptop, their devices all day long, right? What about malware? Where does that come into the mix?
Okay. It's about having that risk-based attitude. Okay. Because the premises of cybersecurity and the core is to increase protection and to lower risk. All right. When a person or a business can have that frame of thought, is to think and say, okay, then I need to protect my credit cards. Well, I have a business. I need to make sure that I find ways to defend the bubble because the bubble is what hackers try to infiltrate, right?
And this is from a business and personal perspective, right? Regardless.
Yes. Yes. That's why the cybersecurity mindset was written because there's a disconnection between I'm business, I'm a personal person. But, when we think about the cybersecurity mindset, it is all inclusive of all people. Right. Okay. No matter who you are, you can go read the book and you can apply that to your own life, business, and your career. Right. And you can have a better outlook on how cybersecurity operates. So what are some tips or rule of thumb regarding being online, whatever device, and malware? What are some points that people should be aware of when using software like that? All right. I always like to go into the concept of information sharing first. We all are sharing information. We can't get away from sharing information, but two, we have to limit the way we share information. So let's talk about email.
Right.
Email.
Yeah.
All right. Email needs to have a strong password. There are different ways to make your password strong. Be careful what you send out an email, personal information, social security numbers, and so forth. Some of the larger organizations use a data loss prevention program, so they can scan emails and they can discover where there's credit card numbers, where there's social security numbers that are actually being sent out. Okay?
That's internally.
Yes. Now,
to prevent that, like going back to your earlier topic about being proactive.
Yes. Okay. So if you're using social media, which is one of the center outlets where a lot of information is shared, here's some tips.
Okay.
All right. If you take a picture, all right, do not take it behind your car because your car tag is exposed.
Row.
Okay. Hackers people can perform social engineering and do research and find out who you are, where you live, and so forth. Right.
Wow.
Okay. Be careful about how you share your accounts. All right.
Okay.
Because sharing accounts means that you may have a trusted friend or whatever, or somebody that you met that you think is safe, and you get them access to your account. Okay, so you kind of have to be careful, especially about that as well. Secondly, too, is this personal business. Social media has been used as an outlet to settle disputes, I may call, right? Yeah. So you want to stay away from that because then it becomes everybody else's business. One of the areas that I've seen that is constantly happening is these certain challenges where there's a age challenge, where someone will give their age based on a certain question, or it's a car challenge, and you give something special about the first car you had. Well, let's step back for a minute. When you call into a bank to validate yourself, those are two questions that the bank normally asks you.
Right.
So if someone could deduce that information down, they can find out that person A was born in 1945. Person A first car was a 1962 Chevy. Now, if the bank only asks 2 questions, then they've been authenticated to your bank account. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
See, it's just that simple.
Right.
Now, those are some of the common practices I've seen now. Now, as far as malware, here goes something that's very important is to make sure that you have an antivirus program on your computer functioning and working. 2 is that be careful about attachments, because attachments can come through email and you may think it's from a credible source,
Right.
but it may not be a credible source. Here's an example. If you got an email that actually said, stated Bank of America, right?
Right.
@ and usually the domain should say probably something like bankofamerica.com. All right. Now,
And with the S for security, right? HTTPS.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't see the S on there. That's another red flag, right?
Right. So if you look at the last segment of that email, if I was trying to send you a bad attachment, right?
Right.
Maybe I could just leave out the A and you don't pay attention to
exactly. Yeah.
it. Okay.
One little character.
Right? Something else is be careful about people trying to give you $1 million. Okay.
Right.
You know, you got $1 million in the bank. You were selected by the Treasury Department because you're such a great citizen.
Right. Or we found lost money or whatever, right?
Yeah. You know, all of those type of things. So,
or from Amazon. Amazon is a big thing too, where they just manipulate, again, a character or 2, and it looks like they just want you to verify your Amazon account, and all of a sudden Pandora's box opens up.
One of the other things is calls. You may get a call with saying, hey, you know, your Amazon account been hacked, and we're calling from Amazon, and we need to send you a code to put on your phone to go make sure that we can protect your account. That doesn't sound right.
Right.
Okay. It's because if you had a problem, I'm pretty sure Amazon would email you. And also, one of the ways to verify that the numbers and emails are pretty much legit is you just go on Google and to type it in. And usually a list will come up and say, these are fraudulent numbers.
Yeah, when I get like a robocall or a call I don't recognize, I always just Google the phone number, and then that shows me if it's a customer or somebody I've been dealing with or not, right? But you hit on quite a few things. That was a deep dive right into just what every day, almost everybody's online, some type of email communication. So that's just one instance of what a value proposition, if we will, from the book. You mentioned on a couple of things about social media. We want to move on to some other topics real quick, but just you mentioned social media, which is really law enforcement's best friend, right? You can't watch a crime show without seeing it's amazing what people will divulge on social media, and it can come back and bite you pretty quick, right?
Right.
Let me ask you this about social media. So occasionally we have interns in the studio or in different ventures and virtual assistants, and at some point you need to release, in order to be scale your business, you need somebody to manage your social media. So I think a good, I see if you would concur with this, but rather than giving them access to your login information, there are services like Buffer and Hootsuite that it's another portal, right? And then they can log into that, but they're not really technically logging into your account, your social media account. And they can post on there. You can give them kind of an editor instead of admin access, right? Kind of like on Facebook, right? So they can't really do much at that point. Right? I mean, would that make sense? Or would you subscribe to that premise?
Yeah. This because what's happening is that the increased protection and lowering risk, is taking place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's no utopia, but it's about kind of being proactive and doing the best you can, right? And then also a good rule of thumb is just kind of obvious is that after you've had somebody engaged, like a virtual assistant or whatever, managing your account, when that relationship ends or that contract ends, obviously change all your password information, right?
Rich. You haven't even read my book yet.
Yeah, I know, right? I just got speaking of that, I'm very excited. I just got my autographed copy this morning with my coffee, so I'm off to a great day today. Today's going to be an amazing day. And thanks for the book and the autographed copy.
You sound like a cybersecurity expert.
Well, actually, that's a good transition to let's talk about, I think it's chapter 19, wearing the hacker's hat.
Oh,
right. That was one of my favorite episodes in the studio. And if I can give a kind of quick teaser, and then you do a deeper dive. So the premise is, if you're involved in any organization, family, if you will, nonprofit, business ventures, everybody within the organization really should be wearing what I love that term, the hacker's hat. Talk to us about that.
Oh,
that could be another episode, but
Walmart has your size on the shelf.
Just joking. Right.
Okay. Well,
right, bro.
You know, the hacker's hat simply is mirroring a hacker's environment. Okay, that's exactly what it talks about. How can we mirror a hacker's environment? Because hackers share information. Hackers live in cells. Hackers are always learning about the next loophole. Yeah. Now, let's just transition that over to normal people and people that work in IT as well.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine us carrying that same mindset, right? So this means that we don't beat hackers to the front line, okay? Because it's like a race, right? Because in lane A is a hacker, and lane B is regular people and technology. The person that reaches the finish lines win, okay?
Right.
If you know how the person in lane A weaknesses is, and if you can look at their weaknesses, and if you can really, really say, okay, then I know that hackers are trying to infiltrate this new software program because, they put new bugs in it. If you know that, then you can be proactive.
Right, yeah.
And you can beat them to the finish line.
Yeah, beat them at their own hack, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
But the premise there is like everybody within the organization, much like, in business, we talk about the customer experience, right? Customer support, whatever you want to call it. So that is not just the responsibility of that department. So in business, in cybersecurity, it's not like, that's the problem of cybersecurity department or IT guy, whatever, right? It's, again, kind of correlating to the customer experience. That's all the way from the founder of the organization to the front line to the newest hire, right? And so what you would probably suggest that, on a somewhat regular basis, the organization should have all the team members educated on what to look out for in terms of cybersecurity, right?
Oh, yes, because it goes beyond just looking at technical people and the cybersecurity experts.
Right.
This is about everybody in the organization. But also, too, I want to point out is that also raise awareness to regular people.
Right.
Okay? Let's just picture this, right? When we think about situational awareness, all right, everyone knows that when they leave a house, that the lights are turned off.
Right.
Okay? Nobody left a piece of bark on the table. But you come back home and you see that.
Yeah.
This is your situational awareness.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Hackers have a situational awareness because they understand the environment and what's going around. Common people involved with business, and also technology people, it's the same concept. But the idea is to make sure that if you're in lane B, that you make it at the finish line before the hackers do. Okay.
Speaking of the finish line, we're almost to the finish line of this episode of this podcast. So a couple more rapid fire questions here for you. So let's talk about what do you anticipate this just being released, the book, but what's the long term? What do you expect, from the book? What are you thinking, the reach of this is going to be, or what's your ideal, vision for the results of the book being released?
Okay. What I want the cybersecurity mindset to do is to serve as a resource guide, to serve as that place that people can come and read about cybersecurity, but also practice cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the cybersecurity mindset itself is a roadmap. Right. But I want people to develop their own solutions. So the long-term road is to have the cybersecurity mindset into every college, and I would like for it to become a capstone course for like every college student.
That's a great idea.
Okay. if you are a CISO or a business professional, I want this to be a resource on your desk.
Right.
Before you go into the boardroom, maybe you are challenged with something that you need to read about. Maybe that's a chapter in there you can read. Okay. I want the cybersecurity mindset to actually be the talk of the town. Have you noticed how everybody talks about Facebook?
Right.
I want the cybersecurity mindset to be the talk of the town.
Okay.
But talking in a sense where people understand it and people can practice it.
Yeah, so in relating to business, basically in business, there's a thing called SOPs or Standard Operating Procedure, right? So within the subject matter of cybersecurity, this should be the go-to source. And I think the operative word I love built into the title itself is mindset. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a casual read, you read it one time and then put it away, right? So as things change and as your personal life changes, you have kids in the family or you have more, acquire more wealth, you need to be higher alert. And in business, as technology changes, you need to kind of go back and reference some of these subject matters, right?
Yes, because it's written in a format where it can be served and used 20 years from now.
Right.
Okay. Because the way I wrote the book was to make it useful for everyone, may it be 15 to 20 years from now.
Right.
See, these concepts can still stay into practice. Now, technology may change, and that's where the transformation thinking comes to play. Because technology is going to change over the next 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So that transformation thinking is going to occur because of the cybersecurity mindset.
So, two last questions here for you. So we mentioned midpoint during the show about a teaser for season 2. So you got some episodes. You got fired up when I said that. So you got some episodes in the works. So give us a little teaser of what people might expect in season 2 of the podcast for the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast.
Well, season 2 is about activating the cybersecurity mindset.
Okay.
Right?
Now that we know the principles,
right?
Now taking action. Okay, I love
action.
it. Okay.
All right. We want to put the cybersecurity mindset into practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are some great topics that I'm going to be talking about, and I'll just get over a few of them. One is that talk about the talent acquisition process. Okay. There's a process for developing the workforces and bringing on that great talent. We're going to talk about cloud security. Okay. We're going to be talking about zero trust. We're going to talk about cybersecurity in the healthcare sector. We're going to talk about cybersecurity in the financial sector.
Dang.
Okay. We are also going to be talking about cybersecurity leadership. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And just to go throw one more here.
Yeah, one more.
Okay. We are also going to be talking about cybersecurity in the automotive industry because cars now,
big time.
Cars now are becoming smart.
They start themselves. They're driving themselves. Yes. The automatic braking system, whatever, right? That's some scary stuff right there that's kind of Jason Bourne kind of, stuff, right? Okay, so that definitely check that out. And speaking of that, so last question here for you. So Dwayne, well, first, it's been a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you.
Congratulations about your book. I know that's been a long process, and I get just fascinating from an author and a writing standpoint. So again, kudos on that, and look forward to taking the main stage, if you will, and what you have cooking behind the scenes to help promote that. So once again, Dwayne, so how would people find out about the book, your podcast, and reach out to you? And
okay, www.DewayneHart.com for reaching out to me, for ordering a copy of the book, and also too, you can go and find the links to the podcast. I wanted to make it easy for all my readers and listeners to have a centralized source to gain information. And also from www.DewayneHart.com, there's some links over to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media outlets, and also YouTube as well.
All right. That was amazing. Once again, Rich Casanova here live from our Atlanta podcast studios. It was a pleasure having the conversation with Mr. Dewayne Hart and the release of his new book. And again, you can check that out at DewayneHart.com. And also, stay tuned for another episode or the next season of the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast. We'll see you soon.